Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So I've actually just made this spreadsheet for myself and it shows all the compliance that needs to be done before you can rent a flat. So you may have a flat, may have done the refurb within that property. What do you need to do? What do you need to take off? What do you need to comply with in order to actually rent it out legally? So I've done all of the items. I've done the cost. And I've done the frequency, how often do you then need to do it again and again. So the first thing we have is gas check. If your property has a gas supply, you need to get a gas engineer in and he just confirms that all gas appliances, flues and fittings and pipe work are safe. He inspects it, makes sure there's no leaks anywhere and certifies that the flat or the house is good to be rented for 1 year. It then needs to happen every single year. Obviously gases can be very dangerous, so this is something that I fully agree with. The cost is around £80 for the person to come out, do the checks and give you a certificate. And yeah, once a year you need to do it. So that's the first item. Second item is the Legionella risk assessment. So Legionella is this, I think it's a bacteria that lives in water when the water is between 20 and 45 degrees and when it's stagnant. So what you have to do is you have to inspect all your cold and hot water systems, or get somebody to inspect those systems, and with a thermometer you need to check your taps, make sure it goes below 20 and above 45 degrees, which is where Legionella is killed. To get someone in to do it is £90. It needs to be done every year, but you can also do it yourself. So if you buy a thermometer and if you really understand how the water system works in your house, you can do that yourself as a landlord. Next, we have landlord or building insurance. So landlord is a full package, building plus a bit more. Building insurance is purely for the property structure. So you are liable for that and you need to have insurance for that as a landlord. So fire, storm, flood, vandalism is covered within that insurance, but also the landlord insurance often has property owner's liability insurance for any claims against you. You can also have rent protection insurance, which means that if the tenant stops paying, you can be covered for a certain length of time. So this insurance, as a minimum, the building insurance is compulsory. It's around £250 a year, depending on the property value, of course. But on average it's around that, and you always have to pay that every year. Next is the PAT, portable appliance test. For that you need to inspect anything with a socket that you leave in the house, and you need to visually inspect it, and then you also need to do the earth continuity, insulation resistance and correct polarity. So a few tests using some specialized equipment, just to make sure those items are safe and it's not going to cause any issues in the house. It costs around £70 to do it. The regulation on the PAT testing is a bit more vague. Obviously electricians can do it, but then also people who understand how things work can do it. And I would say 1 to 3 years is the frequency that it needs to be done at. Again, it's a bit vague, but I would just be safe and do it every 1 to 2 years. Landlord registration. So this is something that has to be done. There's a Scottish Landlord Register, for example, and what they do is they check to make sure you have done all the other compliance items. They get you details and they just kind of control the whole sector. So they have a record of who's doing what, and they give you a number, which also gives a bit of trust to the tenants that you are a registered landlord, and therefore you're going to try to be reasonable. I think if you're going to start doing bad stuff like not doing compliance, etc., you can get reported and you can lose that registration. There's also fines, etc., so that's something that needs to be done. It costs £100 to £150 and you renew that every 3 years. Next is electrical installation condition report. That's not just the portable appliance testing is just the things with a plug, a washing machine, dryer, vacuum cleaner, etc. This one is a full electrical inspection, so this one is a lot more thorough. They look at the consumer unit, they look at the cables, they look at the sockets. A lot of the testing gets done. It needs to be by a qualified electrician. And yeah, all that testing just makes sure everything electrical is safe in your house. So that one costs about £150, and you do that every 5 years roughly. Next is EPC. So for that one, there's an assessment known as the standard assessment procedure. It gives you points. So the better the insulation, the better the windows, lighting, etc., the more points you have, and it shows how efficient your property is, how warm it is, etc. So for example, a C rating, as it says in my notes here, is 69 to 80 points, and it can be from A all the way down to an F, I believe. Currently you need at least an E to rent, but I think it's going up. It's just something that I would check if I was you. A lot of the time when you buy the property, you get that anyway, so you don't always have to do it. But sometimes you may do a refurb and redo the EPC because you've improved insulation, heating, etc., and it will go up and it will be better for renting. The cost is about 100 quid, and every 10 years you need to do the EPC check. And then the last thing is the heat alarm, smoke alarm, and the CO detector. They need to be interlinked, and they need to be positioned in strategic locations. Just to read the guidance on that a bit more. It's just to make sure that if there's any fire or carbon monoxide or anything that gets detected and all of the alarms sound, letting the tenant know that there's a danger and making sure that they come out of the house and out of any danger. To get those installed costs about 300 quid, and with the battery, once they last for 10 years, then you have to replace them. So I will share the spreadsheet. This shows all the compliance that you have to do, all the main compliance that you have to do. I hope you found it useful, and looking forward to the next video. Subscribe.